Hi, you're on the air, WPLP.
Yes, good evening, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my name's Bruce. I thoroughly enjoy listening to your talk show, and I would be terribly devastated if you thought about leaving in the evening. Have you given that...
Well, be devastated. I'm just fed up with it. Just absolutely fed up with it.
Well, I really enjoy your show so very much, and what would you do if you left in the evening?
I would either work in the daytime in this market or I'll look for another market because I've just had it with nighttime talk radio.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way because I thought that's what nighttime radio was all about, listening to everybody.
Well, maybe there was a time when it was, but that time, I guess, is long gone.
Oh, that's a shame. I listen to your show so often, and I really enjoy it. I just don't know what I'd do in the evening if you weren't on.
Have you thought about reading?
Yes, I have, and I do read quite a bit, but I really get my turn on listening to you. And I would be thoroughly fractured if you went off the air. Bob, may I ask you... Excuse me. May I ask you something candidly?
Sure.
Are you gay?
No. I mean, my God, once you've been elected to an official office in Florida, you become some kind of a god. You put yourself on a pedestal, and not only aren't you going to go to lunch with a talk show host, but you wouldn't even go to lunch with a constituent. You don't have to.
But the point that I'm trying to bring across is that by being involved in the political and business and more intellectual community, the word of mouth is going to spread within that community, and subsequently the phone calls should follow from that community, thus eliminating a lot of the nuts and freaks and those type of people that call. Instead of getting a one good and one bad ratio, somebody may get a 3 good to 1 bad ratio.
Oh, you'd be stunned at the people that listen to talk radio. You'd be stunned at the people that listen to this program here. I have talked with people in the Republican Party. I've talked with people in the Democratic Party, and they've told me, well, gee, last Thursday night I was driving home, and you said such and such and such and such, and last November you did a show. They listen. They just don't take part. They're above.
But does it have a satellite effect? They may listen, but does it have a satellite effect? Does it spread? Which I can see happening up north. You get... One call will refer to another call. Even in the conversation that they're having with the talk show host, you can see where the call came from if you listen carefully.
But again, there's one thing that you and the last caller have forgotten to take into account. She came from Cincinnati. Cincinnati is an old, stable community with a great deal of community spirit.
Right.
People that live in the general Cincinnati area live in Cincinnati, no matter what the suburbs may be. Same situation in Boston. People that live in metropolitan Boston, they know what's going on all over the place. They know what's going on in Marblehead. They know what's going on out on the Cape. They know what's going on in town, right on down the line. People that live in Tampa Bay live in Largo, or they live in Lutz, or they live here or there, but they don't live in one big metropolitan community. We are a large city that is filled with people who don't realize they live in a large city. They came to Tampa Bay to escape Cincinnati and Boston and Philadelphia and, Youngstown, and on the list goes. There is no great sense of community here. If you're back in Boston, you've got your Celtics, you got the Red Sox, you got this, you got that, you got the other thing. You've got the local politicians. Same story in Cincinnati. You got Pete, and you got the Reds, and the Bengals, and on and on and on it goes. There's something that holds the community together. There's always something going on that is of interest to a lot of people. Here, people that live in Hillsborough couldn't care less about people that live in Pinellas and vice versa. And I was looking at a map yesterday. This county, Pinellas County, is immense. And I'm sitting there thinking, how could people that live way, way up there, almost in Georgia, have anything in common with somebody that's living down in Coffee Pot Bayou? It's too big. It's too out of hand. It takes all day to drive from one end of the county to the other. Same story in Hillsborough. This place is a disaster in those terms, and that does show up in talk radio. And also you have the political situation in Florida where the politician is above the constituency. You have the business community in Florida where they're above the common man. Oh, I have nothing. Oh, please, I don't want to touch one of them.
I have seen that. I've definitely seen that difference in the attitude. But if I can just give you two small analogies, I can picture if I left my home here now and went to the nearest local pub, wherever that may be, I can hear two guys sitting there, one saying to themselves, "Hey, you ought to call that nut Lassiter and raise hell. I had some fun with him last night." And they slop a few beers down, and then one of them goes to the phone and calls you. I can just visualize that.
Oh, I frequently go into restaurants, and I'll hear people sitting at another table talking about me.
Oh, I can just visualize.
I love that. Oh, I get a big kick out of that.
Without even going there. But at the same token, I have been, like when I was in the other market, and I have been in that same type of a bar room, and I have heard people drinking the same kind of beer and the same kind of whiskey and saying, "Jesus, I'm going to get home because I want to catch Williams." Of course, he's on the afternoon now. But I want to catch him because such and such a thing happened today.
Well, and there's one additional factor in the market that you're talking about, the market that the woman before you was talking about, that's different from Tampa Bay, okay? In Boston, RKO and BZ aren't out after any one group of people. They want everybody.
Exactly.
People in Cincinnati aren't out after any one group of people. They want everybody. Well, FLA has gone out after the females. They want the females, baby. And PLP has gone out after what is referred to as the core audience. And the core audience means people who are older, because there are a lot of them. And so the two stations have two different philosophies, although the philosophy is one in the same. They are narrowcasting.
Well, if that be the case, and I definitely don't want to agree with you because you know more about it than I do. If that be the case, I'm sure that you have looked at your potential in another market. I'm sure.
I talk to people all the time.
And maybe I have to ask you this question. I'd hate like hell to lose you because you're one of the few that I can even listen to. What is preventing you from moving to another market?
Well, first of all, I happen to like living in Florida.
That's why I'm here too. So, even though I don't like a lot of things about it, but if that be the case that you like living here.
Secondly, there are only a handful of towns I would move to. Okay, the only towns I would be interested in living and working in would be, and not necessarily in this order, Boston, Philadelphia, New York, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Washington, D.C., period. And with those towns, you were talking about perhaps a total of 25 jobs, none of which are open at any given time.
Oh, wow. And there's a common thread that runs into almost every single one of those towns you mentioned.
Yes, there is. They're old.
Educational, lifestyle.
There are educational centers, each and every one of them.
Exactly.
There are economic centers, each and every one of them. They are old, established towns with great community spirit, and that is the main reason I would be interested in those towns.
So is it a problem with talk radio per se in Pinellas and Hillsborough, or is it that this market
is going to
exist until such time that they find another clown to...
No, it's a problem all over. It's a problem all over the country. If you go into St. Louis might also sound as though it fit into that category of the towns that I just mentioned. But in terms of talk radio, it doesn't. You've got two stations in St. Louis. You have KMOX, which is a CBS-owned and operated station. And, I mean, you want to talk about fluff and marshmallow talk radio. I mean, the plant lady's a little bit too controversial for them. Then you've got another station whose call letters I can't remember, but that's okay. Hardly anybody that lives in St. Louis can remember them either. They have a rating that is so small that it shows up in negatives, and they just got to talk to anybody that'll call them about anything, and when they don't get calls, they play records. Well, it's true. I'm not making it up.
No,
and I'm not even embellishing.
I believe you, but can you differentiate the difference between St. Louis and Cleveland for me? Because you had mentioned Cleveland.
If I could, I'd go into the consulting business and become a millionaire and wouldn't have to put up with these crazy calls.
I don't want to take up too much time because I know some other callers are calling, but I really do enjoy it. It's probably the most sensible conversation I have all day, even if I'm just listening, because of the mentality that seems to exist. Maybe that bumper sticker that's prevalent around here that says "Life is a beach" or "Life is a party" is more true in this area than the bumper sticker was intended to be.
Well, one day in the not-too-distant future, AM talk radio is going to wake up in this country, and they're going to find that they have lost out to FM. It's much more real, it's much more lively, and they aren't aimed at any one specific group. And I hate what the Q-Zoo does, okay? I despise almost everything they do. But the fact of the matter is they do it well, they are reaching their audience, and they have done more to raise the social conscience in this community than either PLP or FLA put together and multiplied by 40 have done.
Wow. I'm totally unfamiliar with that station. I don't believe I've ever even heard it, so I couldn't comment.
Well, they move closer and closer to being a talk station with each passing day.
Wow.
And they're not the only ones. They have expanded their telephone talk elements into afternoon drive, 3 to 7 in the afternoon for mere civilians. And again, they're not the only ones. It's being done in other communities as well. And it's working. It is working well. The reason it works is because, just because they let people be themselves. They have a good broad base. They haven't scared away anybody in terms of a particular market segment. They don't pander to anybody in terms of a particular market segment. If they pander to the common man.
Well, when you spoke a little earlier just now about PLP pandering to a certain element, okay, I assume that you've gone to, I don't know the radio structure, but I assume you've gone to people in that structure that are above you and had some pretty, earthy conversations about this.
Sure, everybody that works here has.
Pardon me?
Everybody that works here has, and earthy's a real good way to phrase it, too.
Well, can publicly you state, are they earthy, sincere earthy, or are they just, mumbo-jumbo?
Well, again, we've just undergone a management change here at the station. George Yoakum left the station. I don't know if you were listening from the beginning of the show, but one of the things I talked about is George Yoakum would walk up and down the halls.
Yes, I did.
Saying, God, did you hear what they did on the zoo this morning? Gosh, did you hear that call on the zoo this morning? He would come to me before my show, and he'd say, gosh, Lassiter, what you're doing is in essence the same thing that the Q-Zoo is doing. That's really great. That's really great. And what's he do? He goes out and hires Chuck Harder.
Well, I don't know this gentleman or anything about him, but when you had made that statement much earlier tonight, it kind of reminded me of the fellow on that WKRP program on the television.
Yeah.
That was running that station. And
the big guy.
Yeah.
No, you should have been here before Yoakum. Then you would have been reminded of the big guy.
and it reminded me of somebody who married into the family of the radio station.
With Yoakum, it was closer to the news director, if you'll remember him from KRP, taking over the station.
I'm not terribly familiar on that. But
Les Nessman, I think his name was.
Nessman, right. Yeah. And who owns a radio station? Who makes those kind of decisions?
In this particular chain, this is a chain that runs autonomously. Each station is responsible for itself. There is very little meddling on a corporate level in Gigantic Broadcasting.
Oh, I see.
Or Gigantic Publishing now.
Well, who can, like you just stated very early tonight in your monologue, that you had the highest rating in Tampa Bay area. I never did get the distinction, but the Tampa Bay area.
Of Tampa Bay originated talk shows.
About in am I that far off base?
Well, you see, there's one thing you don't understand about this business, and that is that we have primarily two kinds of people in the broadcasting business. We have management, and we have what is referred to loosely in the industry as talent. And talent is well, you see, the day that you're hired in this business, you are a gift from God. You are what is going to turn the station around. You are what is going to build the fortune. You are the franchise the day that you are hired. And the second day on the job, your worth starts to slip. And it slips each and every day that you are there. And the longer you are there, the less they listen to you. It's only your first day on the job that you know anything. And from that point on, you don't know nothing as far as management is concerned.
But what...
And that's not just here. That's everywhere.
Say, if tomorrow morning you paraded into whoever's office and said, look, we're either going to do it my way or it's been fine.
Well, I don't work that way. I do it on the air.
No, well, on the air. Are they going to say, well, they clean out your desk?
Who knows?
I mean, there's advertising money involved here, I'm sure. I mean, no, they're not in this for
couple of shekels.
reasons.
Couple of shekels, sure.
When are they going to, I mean, at what point do they take this thing seriously?
Oh, they take it extremely seriously. They take it extremely seriously. And I'm not talking about PLP or the management of PLP.
Right.
I'm talking about the state of talk radio in America on the AM band. It is in trouble. It has been in trouble for a very long time. And in some markets, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse in terms of who talk radio is reaching. We're reaching the wrong people.
And look, I just want to ask one other question.
Sure, and then I do have to go.
Is there a large turnover in the management end of any talk show? Is it...
Yes.
Are they held, are they left twisting in the wind as soon as the second day they come to work, too?
No, but you're talking about young, upwardly mobile men and women who are even more upwardly mobile than most of the air talent.
Oh, I see.
Stepping stones. Everything is a stepping stone until you reach whichever market you consider to be nirvana. For most people, that would be New York or perhaps their hometown if they're from a large metropolitan area. They're stepping stones. And yes, there is a tremendous turnover in talk radio management. In radio management, period.
More so than in the hosting of the talk radio show?
Probably yes. Probably yes. I mean, let's go down to Miami. We have Neil Rogers, who's been in the market now for 11 years. Al Rantel, 7 or 8 years. Steve Kane, 4 or 5 years. Shirley Peters, about 10 years. I could go on with several other names. I think I've made the point. I can't think of any general manager that has been at a station more than a year. That's exactly what I was... The longest program director I'm aware of down there would be about 3.5 years. The other two top English language talk stations down there, one of them has had probably 3 program directors in the last year, and the other has had 2 program directors in the last year.
And who makes the decision on hiring and firing those type of people?
For the most part, they moved on their own.
Oh, I see.
Stepping stones.
Wow. Okay, well, I do sincerely hope that you stick around because you are a breath of fresh air compared to anything else I hear.
Well, I hope talk radio sticks around. I thank you much for the call.
You're welcome.
Be good. The time. St. Pete, hi. You're on the air, WPLP.
Yes. Hello, Bob.
Hello.
Yes, this is Marvin.
Right.
And I just got a call from Bruce. And I'm sitting here with tears in my eyes.
Oh, poor baby.
He wants his ring back because of you.
Oh, you silly boy.
You let it out of the bag.
Yeah.
You let it out of the bag. Let me ask you something. If you quit at night, does that mean we can go out more often?
That's right, honey.
Oh, Papa, you're a darling. I'm going to get my ring back from Bruce.
Oh, that's good.
And we can go back together.
Okay.
We take you to Monmouth Racetrack in Monmouth, New Jersey.
Well, now, just before we get down to the feature race, it looks very much today, in the opinion of the experts, that it's going to be a very, very close contest between Dolly Jane and that beautiful new bay, Harass. Now, just a minute, fans. I've noticed here that Harass is not going to run. Remember now, Harass is not going to run. Be sure to scratch Harass.
Tampa, you're on there at WPLP.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Well, second time I've ever called you. And I guess you can classify this household as one of the ones that kind of sit back, listen to you, don't participate. So I guess we're kind of guilty in that.
You're stealing, you see? You're stealing.
Sorry about that, love, but we do very much enjoy your show. We have a kind of diversity of ages in this household. We have the young ones, the 22s, the 23s, and 24s, plus our age. And we're kind of like the majority. We kind of roll with the flow. Apologize for that. But we do enjoy you immensely.
Yeah, but you see, the point is, I wasn't talking about serious issue talk. I love serious issue talk, but not 5 nights a week.
I grant you,
But you can call on the nights that we're talking about which ear to wear your earring in.
And I don't know. You need, in my opinion, you need a service award just for putting up with, like the last call that you had. How you do that and maintain your sanity. I love you. I don't know how you do that.
We see that the trouble with talk radio is no matter what we're talking about, we can guarantee that we're going to get a call from a guy in Tampa with a slight Hispanic accent who's going to try to tell us that Jefferson wore the earring in the left ear, and then we're going to get another call from a man who writes everything down, who'll preface it by saying that he works in the mental health industry for 117 years, and it doesn't make any difference what ear you wear the earring in. But if we're talking tomorrow about nuclear proliferation, we'll get a call from the same two guys.
I agree with you, sweetie. And I know I'm like you. The seriousness of life is serious enough. And sometimes we need that humor just to, break the tension, get us over the edge. I wouldn't want to sit down and just carry on conversation continuously of, life-shaking decisions. You need some levitation in life, to break the tension. But my pet peeve is being from this area all my life. I am a native. My whole family are native. And, of course, I work in an environment where these people come down and say, well, we did such and such up north. And as I tell them, pardon the language, that damn road has two ways, and if you don't like it here, they didn't shut the gate when you came down here. It can go back. That's kind of my peeve, and I wish to God you'd have been here when we grew up in this area. Honest, it's like night and day. It was geared for the young people, honestly. You could go to the beach. We could go to the beach, Bob. They even had parties for the young people on the beach. If you got loud, so what? Now, the kids can't even go down there and play volleyball without some old crony putting it in the newspaper.
Or build a sandcastle.
Right. But, I really wish you could have been here, and seen. It breaks my heart to see all these. Some of it is for the good, I grant you. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But a lot of the people, there's not very many people, as like the lady was talking about a while ago, the South. I think there's a lot of it left here. But I think a lot of it is like I said before, I think we're the guilty party is because we don't sit back and let you know we're here. And I do apologize for that.
Well, especially with a household like yours, with all of those people, your household alone could give us 2-3 hours of new callers.
Sure. And as I say, and I grant you we are, and I know for a fact there's a lot of other ones out there just like it. And we do love talk radio. We do. We're not TV fanatics. We watch Channel 3. Every once in a while there might be a special on. We try to keep up with what's happening in Washington and local government and everything else because I have, been active in politics. I even, was on the school board and different things, but then you get so tired of fighting, as you say, the rhetoric and everything else, and you just say to hell with it. I'm talking to a stone wall. I'm not going to make any changes. So you just get tired of it. And being guilty of just giving up sometimes.
Well, I thank you very much for the input.
But keep up the good work, and I love you for your patience. You're greatly appreciated, whether you know it or not.
Take care.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tampa, your turn at WPLP.
Good evening, Bob.
Hi.
Just to let you know that I'm a total addict of your 3 hours every evening.
Well, thank you.
And I think my wife would be pleased if you did get off the air, because I think she'll be able to have a conversation with me. But besides...
My wife, too.
Okay.
No, not with you, with me.
Yeah, okay. What I was calling for, all these crazy calls and idiots that you get,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't assume that you really want them at all on your program. I can't understand why you let somebody carry on burping for 5 or 10 minutes, and why really you don't just cut them off, and then perhaps eventually you wouldn't get them all calling in and trying to get on the program.
I work with what I have to work with.
Pardon?
I work with what I have to work with.
So what you mean, if your calls are down, then you get some crazy, you just let them carry on, and is that basically it?
It's what I'm basically working with.
Yeah. But the thing is, wouldn't it in the long run pay off to cut them off and just go on chatting for a while to get some decent calls in, rather than let these sort of people think that they can get through and get on the air and burp and just go on crazy for 5 or 10 minutes?
Well, my personal feeling is they happen to have something to say or some noise to make, and there is actually a statement in what they are saying.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of like, while I'm deeply offended by ethnic jokes or ethnic slurs, such as heard on some talk shows and some rock and roll stations, that they have their place because they do get people to respond and to think.
I can't really see how anybody can respond to 10 minutes of burping.
Very simple.
There's no answer.
No, there is an answer. That's because that's all that person had to say, and that person speaks for an awful lot of other people. It's all the other people have to say, too.
So in a way, you do really, you want these calls on the air, or you don't?
It's not that I want them, I don't want them.
You accept them?
I accept them, I have to.
Yeah. So in a way, it's going to be hard to sort of get rid of it. Perhaps these other stations...
No, it's going to be easy as hell. I'm just not going to put up with it at night anymore.
Yeah, but perhaps these other stations in Seattle or wherever, or Boston, that have these so-called good shows, and perhaps in a way...
They have their burpers, too.
They get burpers?
Oh, sure, at night.
So they don't cut them off?
You can't.
Yeah,
they're there.
You've got that 3 seconds. You've cut a few people off when they're cursing away, or you don't fancy what they're saying. You've got that time lapse where you could cut them off.
I just got finished telling you why I don't.
Okay, so therefore you do want the calls like that?
If you say so. St. Petersburg, you're on the air at WPLP.
Hey, Bob.
Hi.
Hey, look, I was holding, and I was going to ask you I was going to ask you what I considered an interesting question about promotion of a talk radio show through an ad agency or whatever, but I was sparked by a caller, 2 callers back, okay? The guy's from Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, his voice is as recognizable as the guy who just called. They're like regular callers. They have personalities, and I want to make an accusation, because maybe you hear 3,000 calls a week, maybe I hear a dozen, and this guy from Boston, who's a regular caller, called you up and he was talking. You maybe had him on for 15, 20 minutes, maybe less, and he was talking about intellectuals and rubbing elbows with the city fathers and this, that, and the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one night you had a show on and you were talking about Kurt of Waldheim, okay?
Yeah.
And you were fielding calls all night, and you were catching a lot of anti-Jewish sentiment. You were catching a lot of stuff. But that guy, and God strike me dead if I'm wrong, because I wouldn't make this accusation if I didn't think I was right on the money. This guy who calls you up and pronounces your name Bob, who's really recognizable to me, called up and said, and I hope I refresh your memory, but he went on about Hitler not finishing the job, and you called him a subhuman pig, okay? And I think I'm right on the money on this one, and if this is the guy, and I'm sure it is, I think he's a real hypocrite for going on for 15 minutes about the intellectuality or non-intellectuality of various callers. And I just got to get that off my chest.
Okay, I don't know, one way or the other, I don't recall.
Okay, well, I'll just, I hope I'm not wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, and if he's listening and that was him, I just want to say that, you're a real pig, pal. Anyways, now let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
If it was, if you had to promote the radio station, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and you were an ad man, and you were talking about print advertising and more specifically, billboards, say, what would you do given a billboard out on the interstate for $2,000-3,000 a month? What would you do as a hook to get people to listen to PLP over FLA, or over other stations rather? Because I may be given that problem, and I think you're probably the best guy to talk to.
Well, I'm not really very versed in that end of the business, but I personally would do something quite in character, kind of a negative ad. Perhaps have a, Lassiter in the middle of the billboard with a circle around it and a slash through the circle.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Now, what I was wondering is, a few years back when I used to, I'm just picking up this again, and a few years back I used to listen really heavily to David Gold, who you may or may not know. But
Yes, I know him.
This is back in, the early 80s. And I was just captured by an ad campaign that went through, like, Tampa Bay Magazine and such, that showed photos of the talk show host behind the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, like a little kid, I was sucked right into that. And I was looking through all the magazines I could get my hands on to see what these guys looked like. And on the whole, I think that's a good approach. I think people would like to see you guys up on a billboard, But I'm wondering if, on the whole, do you guys want to see your mugs on a billboard?
No, absolutely not on the whole.
Okay.
Right. We have enough trouble with recognition.
Now, if the management says, hey, you guys are going to have mugs on the billboard, does it come into a big kick and scream, or do they have the...
No, they do not.
Okay, I see the one billboard out by... coincidentally out by Toy Town for WPLP. I think it's just moved. It's on a rotation, but it was just a great big billboard, said nothing but news talk radio, and I thought for $1,000 a month, from what I understand, that's what's being thrown for it. Could do a little more with it.
My young friend, I must move along because I'm fresh out of time.
All right, thanks for listening, Bob.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank all of you for listening. Thank you for taking part. I'm not sure what we accomplished, if indeed anything, but I still feel the same. And that is the talk radio as a whole in this country has got an awful lot of learning to do. That there is another element coming into the business. That element is FM. FM rock is a general rule of thumb. They're stealing it, and we're letting them have it. What more can I possibly say but behave yourselves?